Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Terry Hyland. I'm a community liaison with the Visiting Nurse and Hospice for Vermont and New Hampshire. And welcome to what will be a four-part series discussing nutrition, presented in collaboration with the Vermont Area Associations on Aging. We're privileged today to have with us registered dietitian Brigitte Harton, who's with Age Well Vermont. At the end of this presentation, we'll put up the main helpline to the various area associations on aging that serve the different counties of Vermont. You can see their logos there at the bottom of your screen. But for now, I'll let Brigitte introduce herself and we'll get right into our presentation.
Thank you, Terry. So yeah, my name is Brigitte Harton and I am a dietitian with Age Well. Age Well is the area agency on aging that covers Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle counties. And I have been a dietitian for over 20 years and I've mostly worked with seniors. So this is a passion of mine. So I'm glad to be able to present to you all today about healthy eating on a budget.
Excellent. So let's get right into it for everyone. We're going to bring up our presentation now. All right, Brigitte, it's all yours.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So, healthy eating on a budget. Now, how many times have we heard that healthy eating costs more? Well, the good news is it doesn't have to, because today, hopefully, I'm going to show you some tips to help you eat better without breaking the bank. So, this is the Choose My Plate model. It's from the USDA, US government, and it is a great basis for healthy eating. If because we always want to talk about, what is healthy eating before we start looking at what we need to do to eat healthy on a budget. So this is a great guide. Basically, it shows you that half your plate should be fruits and veggies. And you should have a quarter of your plate a protein source. So protein being meat, beans, soy, any of those excellent foods. And then you would want about 1/4 of your plate to be grains, preferably whole grains. And I'll come back to that in a moment. And you would want to also include a source of dairy products. So we should try to get 3 servings of dairy products per day. 1 serving being a cup of milk or a serving of cheese, which is about, if you play Yahtzee, it's about those 6 playing dice. That's about the serving size of cheese. And yogurt as well is a great source of dairy product. So again, I want to emphasize the importance of protein because as we get older, we may not know this, but as we get older, we actually need more protein. So it's super important to include a source of protein with both your meals and with your snacks as well. So that can be nuts and, yogurt again, dairy, things like that. So now, speaking of whole grains, so this is a grain, so it can be, your grain there at the middle of the slide. That can be wheat, rice, oats, barley. All of those are excellent grains. So if you were to cut it in half, like on the picture, you would see the dark gray area there. That's the germ. And in the germ, it's kind of like the brain of the grain. You've got some healthy oils, some antioxidant vitamins, some B vitamins, so all sorts of good nutritional value in there. And then you have the darker green contour of the grain. That's the bran. And in the bran, it's kind of like a layer of protection for the grain. And it includes mostly some fiber and also some B vitamins and some trace minerals. And then you have the lighter green portions there. And that's the endosperm. And that's basically carbohydrate, a little protein. But again, mainly it's carbohydrate. So when they process the grain to make white flour or white rice, for example, they actually remove both the germ and the bran. So they take away the 2 most nutritious part of your grain and you're left with just the middle part. And so back in I want to say the 60s or so, they invented the process of enrichment, which basically meant that they added back some vitamins that they took away in the first place. That's why we really, as dietitians, really want to promote whole grains, because you're getting the full package the way nature intended it. This is, you have all the healthy parts. And so good examples of whole grain would be like oats, oatmeal, whole wheat breads, whole wheat pasta, things like that. Brown rice, quinoa is another great grain that also is gluten-free. So if you have a gluten intolerance, that also includes that. So
Brigitte, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I'm always at the store looking at the bread aisle, and I see whole grain versus whole wheat. Which one's better? And maybe is there a simple way to describe the difference?
Yes. So when you're looking at 100 different types of bread at the grocery store, it can be quite confusing. You have 12 grains, 15 grains, whole grain. And I realized that, yes, you're correct. It is quite confusing. So really, a grain can be any of the ones that are on slides here that I've mentioned. So oats, wheat, all of that. When a bread says 100% whole wheat, then it's going to be all, basically wheat as the grain. So you want to look at the ingredient list. So if it says whole, whatever the grain is, usually it's wheat or oats. Then you're getting that full package again. So whole grain versus whole wheat, they're very similar in as far as, if it says whole grain, you know that it's going to be that whole package here. But sometimes if it says 15 grains, that can mean 15 parts of 15 different grains, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's whole grain. So you really want to look at the package. And another thing to kind of look that can be a good guide is also the number of fiber. If it has 3 grams of fiber per slice, that is a good indicator that it's also a whole grain. So another thing to look at.
That's great. Thank you for that.
Sure. So let's get back to eating on a budget now that we know how to eat healthy in a nutshell. So I would like to point out that a great website to look at is the Iowa State University website, the extension website. So I have the link there. There on this website, there's lots of really cool information on meal planning, on budgeting, lots of really inexpensive recipes, and lots of really good information. So this is a tracking food expense, because do you know how much money you have to spend on groceries from weekly or monthly? That's good information to know to make sure that you can stay within your budget. So this tool will help you track how much you're spending on food, and it can show you some trends. So you can kind of see as you're using this form, what am I spending money on? Am I spending money on healthy foods, or am I really spending more money on soda and things like that? So it is a very nice tool to kind of get you started on knowing how much money you need to budget for food. And then another excellent tip to help you eating on a budget is to actually start with planning. So meal planning, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't necessarily need to be a fancy form or anything. All you need is a piece of paper if you're comfortable with that. Some people like forms, and that's great. But you need to have an idea of what you're going to eat in the following week so that you can plan better when you are at the store for what you need to buy. And then, it may seem like a lot of work initially, but believe me, it will pay off. You will not only save money, you will save time because you know what you need to prepare. You have the things you have on hand, and obviously save your health as well. Because if you're planning your meals, you're planning meals around healthy foods and things like that. So first of all, you want to plan meals around what you already have on hand, right? You don't need to buy things. If you have things that you have, look at your freezer. What do you got in there? Look at your pantries. Do you have pasta already? Do you have rice? So plan meals around that first. So you want to do a quick inventory of what you have. Another thing to do is use the supermarket flyers to plan meals around what's on special. So that's another trick to help you save money. So if chicken is on special this week, plan on using chicken for a couple meals or so, and that way you can use the specials. So you save money that way as well. So again, on this Iowa State University website, there's this really excellent meal planning form. So again, if you like forms, I personally like this one just because, again, at the bottom, it's got like a little check mark. Did I get enough veggies? Did I get enough fruit in my day? You know, do I have all the protein I need? So it's kind of nice. And you can make copies of this form, save your meal plans. You know, you don't have to throw them away and reinvent the wheel all the time. You can kind of make a few of those, maybe 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, let's say, and you can kind of adjust as needed for whatever is on special, but you don't have to reinvent everything if you save your worksheets. So other meal planning tips, I would really encourage you to use beans instead of meat in some of your dishes. Beans are excellent source of protein, fiber, and they're typically a lot cheaper than meat. So you can buy dry beans or canned beans. If you're worried about the salt in cans, they do sell the no salt added or the low salt added. Or if you have some beans in your pantry already, rinse them underwater. You should do that anyway with all beans. It does help with the digestion of beans. But if you rinse them underwater, you will remove at least 40% of the salt. So that's another thing if you're worried about salt. Meat is typically the thing that's the most expensive on our grocery list. So if you expand the use of meat in casserole dishes, you know, use a little less and use more veggies or maybe more whole grains, brown rice, things like that, you will make still a very hearty casserole that's going to be a little cheaper and actually a little better for you too. Do batch cooking when you have the time and the budget. So if your budget allows for you to buy a little extra things and you have the time to prepare, like for example, on a Sunday is the day that I'm preparing my meals or, you know, doing some easy prep for the week. If you're making a casserole of some kind, sometimes it's easy to just make a couple and freeze one. And that way you have a meal for later on during the month or whenever. If you live by yourself or you're cooking for 1 or 2, you can make a full recipe that makes, let's say, 4 portions and then freeze 3 individual sized portions for later. So that's one way you can save time and save money. So once your meal plan is done, you can easily make a grocery list from that. And the trick is, when you go to the store, is to stick to your grocery list, right? It's easy sometimes to get swayed by these specials on the end aisles and things like that. So if it's not on your list, you probably don't need it. So try to be careful with that. And then again, you can save that grocery list. It's the one that goes with the specific meal plan. And again, it's easy to just adjust as needed for a few things here and there that you may need. But then you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. There's something that I like to call cook once and eat twice. So this is something to help you with meal planning, and it will also help you save money as well. So if you're buying ground beef, for example, sometimes it's hard to buy a smaller amount if you're cooking for 1 or 2. Well, it's okay to buy maybe a larger amount if you can afford it, and then cook it all at once, because you can then, in your meal plan on using the rest of that ground meat in, let's say you're making spaghetti sauce for the first meal, use, refrigerate the extra ground meat that you already cooked, and then later you can use it in some tacos or put it in soup or, make shepherd's pie, whatever. So that way you can use that meat later during your week, and you've saved time, if you've saved money, and you have things that are ready to go and prepare for your next meal. You can do the same thing with chicken. If you are cooking a chicken breast for yourself for one meal, it's easy to cook a second one, right? And then save that one, refrigerate it right away. You don't want to let it sit around. And then you can use it later to make a salad, a soup, or put it in a stir fry or in a taco or whatever the case may be. So you want to use that on your meal plan, though. Let's say on Monday you're using the ground beef for a goulash. On Wednesday you're going to use the rest of the ground meat to make tacos. So you plan ahead accordingly. And then you can do the same thing with rice or pasta. Cook a little extra rice, use it later. Chop a little extra vegetables, use them later. So those are just some easy tips to help you save time and money. So I don't know about you all, but I know I've been cooking at home a lot more this last year. And sometimes it's hard to get inspiration. We get kind of tired of the same old. Well, here's some great websites for you. So if you're cooking for one or two, like a lot of seniors are, this is a great website here, the One Dish Kitchen. It's nothing but recipes for one. So if you're cooking for two, obviously you're going to double it. But if you're cooking for one person, there are great recipes. They are easy to prepare. Most of them are budget friendly, not all. The focus is not necessarily on budget friendliness, but you can adjust the ingredients, as needed for that. And also Eating Well has tons of really awesome recipes, and budget friendly section. So definitely a great resource. The next slide also has lots of good ideas. Magazines, there's specific ones for cooking for two that have lots of really great recipes. A lot of the disease council type websites, the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, all have recipe areas, and you can also search for cooking for one or two if you're cooking for one or two, or whatever the case may be, or budget-friendly recipes. So lots of very good inspiration there as well. And you don't have to have diabetes or heart disease necessarily to go on these websites. Those are just healthy recipes. Okay, so now tips to stay within budget. So once you know how much money you have to use on food, you can divide that money per times you go to the store. So if you go weekly, if you go bi-weekly, or whatever the case may be, then at least you know ahead of time how much you have to spend. And then sort of try to pay attention as you're going through, at the prices, and you can kind of do a little bit of math in your head as you're going around and trying to stay within that number. Ask for discounts. There's a lot of different grocery stores have discount programs now, loyalty programs, things like that. They can be quite helpful to help you save money. Coupons are kind of a controversial thing. They're really only helpful if you are actually using them for something that you buy normally. A lot of time manufacturers will put out coupons for a new product that they have on the market. Well, you don't know if you're really going to like it. Sometimes it's a large amount. And what if you don't like it? Then that coupon really didn't save you any money if you're throwing that food away, right? So if you are using coupons, try to use them for things that you normally buy anyway. Take advantage of store brands. They offer great quality, and they are usually quite cheaper. So those are great foods to use. And like I mentioned earlier, be aware be aware of things that are on the end caps and things like that are sometimes on special or whatever. They are not necessarily always on special. So they may seem like they are, but they are not always. So be careful with these things. They're trying to trick you into an impulse buy. And then also convenience food, things that are already chopped up or whatever, will tend to be a little more expensive. So you're paying for that extra step. So more tips to stay within budget. When it comes to fruits and veggies, all forms count. So we hear a lot that it has to be fresh. Fresh is the only form that is healthy. Well, that's not the case, actually. Canned fruits and veggies and frozen fruits and veggies, or even dry fruits and veggies, are just as nutritious. And if you're on the budget and you buy frozen veggies, they sometimes will, oftentimes will be cheaper than buying fresh. And same with canned. So, don't shy away from those foods. They are just as nutritious. The only thing is you want to be careful with salt in canned veggies, for example, although a lot of them are now available in the no salt added version. And you have now these little, if you see on the picture there, you're probably familiar with the nice little fruit cups, which make great snacks. They have veggie cups now. So those are kind of very helpful if you live alone and you're making a meal for just one person. Sometimes if you're opening a can of peas, for example, you might be eating peas for the rest of the week. So if you don't want to do that, these fun little cups are quite useful. And I checked the price this last time I was in the store, and they're only $1.99 for 4 cups. So, it's really not, it's a fairly affordable price. So, and again, you're not going to be eating peas all week or throwing away half the can later because you're tired of eating peas. So, so that's a nice, nice option. And again, frozen, also you have to be careful because sometimes if you have a frozen veggie kit, it may have a marinade or something like that, and those tend to be quite salty. But if you buy just the plain old vegetables, in a frozen vegetables, and just grab what you need and put the bag back in the freezer, it's going to last for quite some time. And then if you buying fresh fruits and veggies, buy just enough for what you need. So you can ask your produce manager. They'll often cut a cabbage head in half if you need that, or lettuce or things like that. They will do that for you in most stores. So you can always ask for that. Sometimes also buying fruits at different stages of ripeness too. Like, for example, if you're buying bananas that are ready now and maybe a green one for later, then they won't go and ripen all at the same time and you have to eat a bunch of bananas all at once. So that's another tip to save you some money. So other tips to stay within your budget. Comparing unit prices, that's a nice tool too. So if you're looking at the slide here, you can see that the 6-ounce yogurt seems to be cheaper at 70 cents per unit, compared to the 32-ounce yogurt, which is $1.62. But if you look at the unit price, the 30-ounce, the larger one, is actually only 0.5 cents per ounce compared to 12 cents per ounce for the smaller yogurt. So really, you're saving money if you're buying a larger one, but only if you're going to use it before it goes bad, right? If it goes bad before you get to eat it all, then you're throwing money in the trash. So that's not good. So
I'm glad you brought that up, Brigitte, because
yep.
I only shop that way now, and not enough people know about this. And I think it's a great opportunity to mention name brands versus store brands again.
Yes.
This is a really important part of shopping on a budget, and I'm so glad that I discovered it years ago, but hopefully more people will now after today.
Yeah, it's a great way to compare brand price. I mean, the store brand versus, the more well-known brands. Next time you're in the store, just take a peek and you'll see the big differences between the two. Basically, what the unit prices do is they compare ounces to ounces or whatever. So it's kind of nice. Okay, so stocking your kitchen for easy meals. So having things on hand, that you need for preparing meals, then will help you actually prepare meals and not rely on takeout or things like that. So, having a variety of beans and legumes is nice. Especially, canned beans are very convenient. They're quite cheap. Having some herbs and spices, seasoning, things like that. Some oil, buttery spread. Having some pasta rice. And, they have these pouches now that are very convenient. They're maybe a tiny bit more expensive, but really they can be quite healthy. They have the brown rice now. All you have to do is microwave and you've got some rice ready to go. You can buy it plain too. So because you have to be careful, sometimes some of these mixes have a lot of salt in them. But if you buy the plain and then season it the way you like, then that's a good buy. Yeah, they have all of these different pouches of tuna and things like that, which are convenient if you live and fairly cheap if you live by yourself and you're cooking for one or two. That way you don't have to open a big can and have tuna again to eat all week long, unless you plan for that. If you can plan ahead and to use the leftover, that's always a great way to go. Having a variety of fresh or frozen or canned fruits and veggies to help you eat healthy. Eggs are an excellent source of protein, and they are, easy to prepare in an omelet or something like that. And then again, having some low-fat dairy products on hand so you can get your source of calcium and vitamin D.
Brigitte, can I ask you quickly about eggs, egg whites versus yolked eggs, and the old cholesterol debate? Where does that stand today in 2021?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we know now that the cholesterol in eggs is not the type of cholesterol that makes your blood cholesterol go up. So eggs are great. I think the American Heart Association still says, 3 eggs per week, but I feel like that's kind of an old recommendations because, again, the cholesterol in eggs is not going to make your blood cholesterol necessarily go up. So, I think eggs are awesome. They're full of vitamin E. They have tons of protein, and they're inexpensive. So if you like to have eggs in the morning, great. If you want to make a quick evening meal, or lunch or whatever with a omelet, I think that's fantastic. Okay, so other tips to stay within budget. So I'd like to shift a little bit here and talk about food waste. What are you finding yourself throwing away? I know in Vermont we have this new rule we're supposed to be composting. So I think that a lot of people have noticed how much food they're throwing away since that law was put into place. But that's a great exercise. What are you throwing away? Because when you throw food away, you're really putting money in the trash. So. And one thing that has contributed to food waste is the date labeling on packages. So I will cover that a little bit, helping you understanding what those dates mean, because yes, it really has contributed to food waste. So this is a quote from the FDA Deputy Commissioner for Food Policy. So this is what he said. Imagine this. You go to your favorite supermarket and come out with 3 bags full of groceries. Before you get in your car, you toss one of those bags in the garbage. Sounds ridiculous? Of course it does, but that's in a sense what food waste looks like every day across our country. So imagine you got 3 grocery bags and you throw one of them away. So that's basically what's happening, in the country. So that's not good. And a big contributor, again, to that is these dates on the label. So did you know that these dates are not actually mandated by any of the government agencies or whatever? This is something the manufacturers started putting on products. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So except for infant formula, these dates are not mandatory. So you will see things like a use-by date, and that means that, so a use-by date is the last date recommended for the use of the product while at peak quality. It is not a safety date except when used on infant formula. So again, it is basically telling you that before that date, the manufacturer says that this product is going to be at peak quality. It doesn't mean it's no longer safe to consume. And then you'll see things like a sell-by date on certain, especially meat products. So that tells the store how long to display the product for sale for inventory management. Again, and it's not a safety date. So this is a tool for the store folks to know how long to keep products on the shelves. And then you might see a best if used by or before. So that date indicates when a product will be a best flavor or quality. It is not a purchase or safety date. So you can see how it really got very confusing to the consumer. So how do you know then if a food is still good? So if a food is stored properly, so if you keep it in the refrigerator, you keep it in the freezer, you keep it dry and cool in the pantry, it will stay good, for a fairly long time. And that's key. So you want it to be refrigerated, kept at the right temperature in the right condition. So I always get upset with my husband because he will take the milk, use it in his cereal or whatever, leave the milk on the table for who knows how long. Well, that's not good storage, right? So you want to use your milk, put it back in the refrigerator, and that way you will, you really can extend the life of your milk. So canned foods can stay good almost indefinitely, as long as, again, the seam is not broken, it's it's not rusted or bulging or anything like that. Canned food can be quite nutritious and good. Actually, I'm known to be a deal buyer. Like oftentimes stores will put dented cans in a bin to sell for like really, really cheap. I'm going to be the one going into that bin and buying my canned fruits and veggies, because those canned foods, even if there's a dent in it, are perfectly safe. So then how do you know if something's good? Then trust your senses. If you've kept things properly refrigerated, you put away your leftovers quickly after you prepare them, you cool them very rapidly. Then, look for different changes in colors and smell, consistency, texture. If any of that is happening, obviously you want to toss it out. So within, if you can use leftovers within a week, that's a good time period. But, if you really want to know exactly, specifically how long to keep certain foods, there's an app for that, the Food Keeper app. The link is right there. And that is a great app to really go through different foods and how long you can keep them, and how to keep your food safe. And by the way, I have some information. I'll put my email in a little bit. So if you want some of that information, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to send that to you, some of these links and things like that. So AgeWell is here to help. If you are finding yourself still having a tough time, buying food for yourself, we have Meals on Wheels. We have, pre-COVID, we had community meal programs and restaurant ticket program. Of course, some of these things are on hold right now. We have nutrition counseling with me, and I'm happy to help with any, like diabetes management or anything like that. We have volunteers that can help you grocery shopping. And you can also learn more about 3 Squares Vermont, which is a great program to help you put nutritious food on the table. So they can help you sign up or learn more about the program. So feel free to contact our helpline here. And then this is for our AgeWell in the Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle counties. Terry's going to share the other numbers in a little bit. But yeah, feel free to give us a call or email. So again, thank you so very much. And again, this is my email right here, bharton@agewellvt.org. Feel free to be in touch to learn more or get some tips or some of these links again.
Thank you, Brigitte. That was perfect. I learned a lot in there. I'm putting the helpline for everybody into the comments right now, which is the main line for the Vermont Area Associations on Aging. If you call that line, people, they will help you and connect you with the Area Association on Aging, which is for your town. So that's going in right now. And again, thank you, Brigitte. I think what we're going to do now is we should have some time to take questions. I'll see if there's any in the comments here. I know we had at least one come through. Excuse me. Okay, so from Kathy, we have, how long can I keep my pre-cooked protein in the refrigerator?
Yes, so typically you can keep it from between 3 and 5 days. And when you reheat it, you want to make sure you bring your temperature, if you're using, let's say, ground beef for a taco or whatever, you want to make sure you heat it up to at least 165 degrees. I know not everybody has a thermometer, but that would be a nice purchase to really know that you're reheating to the proper temperature and you're killing off any bacteria that may be in there. So, but yeah, if you can stay save food in the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days.
And is that temperature, that 165, for all types of meat?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not the initial cooking temperature, it's the reheating, and that's the temperature where you're going to really get rid of these bacteria if there's any in there, obviously. And that can be for any casseroles or anything like that.
Wonderful. We did have another question come in from Chris. He says, I love buying foods at farm stands. How do I know how it was stored? Should I be worried?
Well, if you're buying it, so I'm assuming this is like a farmer's market or something like that. Typically the farmers or whatever are right there. They are happy to answer any of your questions about that. That's actually a very good question. I don't know if typically they should keep things in the proper temperature. If it's fresh fruits and veggies, I mean, they can stay out for a while. But if it's anything that needs normal refrigeration, like dairy products or things like that, then definitely check with your person there. How long has that been sitting out? And that becomes important too if you go to, and I know we don't do that too much right now, but eventually we will when you go to places where you have a potluck or whatever, where everybody brings a dish, we want to try to keep things at room temperature no longer than 2 hours. Mm-hmm. After that, if it sits there for longer than that, I wouldn't say, it wouldn't be worth saving it. It actually could be dangerous at that point. So that's the important thing, is to keep things at the right temperature to keep your food safe.
And I have one other question. When it comes to staying on budget, there's been a lot of talk recently about the safety of fruits and vegetables with what's on them. So when it comes to washing a fruit and vegetable, a lot of stores on those end caps, for example, or right near the fruit and veggies, are pushing these fruit washes. Is there any reason that people should be going towards those? Because they can be quite costly versus just running it under the tap.
Yeah, I personally don't think those products are any, I wouldn't spend money on those. I think that washing under the tap is really the best way to keep your fruits and veggies safe. So
great to hear. We did have another question come in just now. And I thought of this while you were speaking as well. Should we let the food cool completely before putting it right in the refrigerator?
No, that is an old, a grandma refrigerator question. I think, but I remember my mother telling me this back in the days, but I think that the refrigerators back then maybe weren't so good. The old thinking that you would put something and it would cool the temperature of the fridge down. Our modern refrigerators are perfectly able to handle something. You want to cool things down as quickly as possible. That is the way to reduce the bacteria the potential for bacteria in your food. There's something we call the temperature danger zone, which is between 40 and 140. If you keep anything in that temperature zone, that's where the bacteria are just having a good old time and getting, multiplying. So you want to avoid these two, that range, between that range as much as possible. So refrigerate things rapidly, and you can even refrigerate things in shallow containers to really help the cooling down process. So no, don't leave things on the counter.
Great. And we had one more come through, and I think we will wrap up here. But from Emily, she has clients on Meals on Wheels and wondering if the Area Association on Aging, would be able to reach out to people like you to help diabetics who are on Meals on Wheels understand which portions of those they maybe should control, et cetera.
Yeah, definitely. That's what each area agency on aging has a dietitian on board. So that's what we're here for. So if you have clients who are having some questions about their diabetes management, please encourage them to reach out to the helpline numbers. And we are happy to help out with any of these education needs.
Yeah, so again, I'll just remind everybody that there's 5 area associations on aging in Vermont that handle the different parts of the state. Each one does have a unique helpline, but the line that was posted in the comments, 1-800-642-5688, 5119 is the master line, because it is a group collaboration effort on the state level. And that line will connect you with the correct Council on Aging for your area. So to answer your question, Emily, absolutely, the Council on Aging will be happy to talk to your diabetics. Okay, well, thank you so much, Brigitte. And thank you to all of the area councils on aging. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this is just one of what's going to be a 4-part series. We hope to do quarterly. So keep an eye out on our social media here, our Facebook, as well as in any newsletters that you might see from these area council on agings and local papers. We'll be posting dates soon for the remaining 3 this year. Thanks everybody for watching, and thank you again, Brigitte.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.